Hello, and thank you for joining us tonight on another episode of Breaking Reality. I'm your host, Joshua McGuire, and with us tonight is GGPuck. You folks may know Puck as one of my moderators when I was doing the shows over on Twitch. Puck will be moderating for us over here on YouTube as well, now that we've changed these shows over to here. But tonight, Puck is on here as a guest to talk about mental health with me tonight. Hi, Puck. How you doing?
Hi, I'm awesome.
So, I know we talked about. I was going to talk about some of my mental health stuff first, but actually, do you want to talk a little bit about yours and explain your avatar before we really get going with things?
Okay. Well, first, let me explain what this avatar is. This avatar is known as a V-roid. People who use these avatars are known as VTubers. We've become more and more common as of late. You might have seen some of us around. But one of the reasons some people get into VTubing is they have a disability of some sort, that using the V-Roid makes it easier to stream. For example, we have a good friend named Tiffany Witcher. She started using a VTuber model because she had been going through chemo, and chemo was leaving scars on her face that she had to like cover very heavily in makeup, and it was upsetting. So she started using her V-Roid, and now she's doing a great time. She's having a great time. But for me, so one of my many issues is I have PTSD. And what happens with PTSD, if you don't know, is sometimes you have flashbacks. They're not always like really bad flashbacks or you know, like you're not always, reeling back, grabbing your eyes, screaming in horror. Sometimes they're just, you're sitting there and you just kind of drift and you zone out and you're lost for a few minutes. And sometimes that would happen to me while I was streaming. And I felt very, very vulnerable when it would happen, and very uncomfortable. And I didn't want to have to stop and explain to my chat every time it happened. And I know I could put a bot command, but it just, I don't know. VTubing makes it feel more comfortable. I have privacy while I'm also there publicly, if that makes sense.
Oh, it makes perfect sense.
There's and yeah, I found it another thing that has helped with my PTSD, believe it or not, is this has happened more than once. I added sound alerts to my stream, and I've been having I would have a flashback and someone would use a sound alert and it would snap me out of it, and I would be like, hey, hey guys. Like,
Well, welcome back.
yeah, and it's nice. I really enjoy it. I highly recommend, if you stream, to add sound alerts to your stream, if you want, if you can, if you have the sort of stream where you where you can do such things.
Well, I will make an announcement here that I haven't told anywhere else really. Since I have taken the podcast from Twitch over to YouTube, I am probably going to return to doing some gaming stuff on Twitch. So I will be back over on Twitch. Still using the same account. I'm not going to change the name or anything. I'm going to still keep it Breaking Reality, the show, but I'm going to do some gaming stuff back on there. I'm not sure exactly what the schedule will look like, or if it will be a set schedule, or if it just might be whenever I feel like it, whenever I've
What if
got some downtime.
what if it's just like you're gaming, but you're still talking about this kind of stuff while you're gaming, like
Oh,
with other
that's
people?
exactly what it's going to be. That's exactly what it'll be. You know, it might be hanging out with Pyromorpheus, playing Ghost Recon Breakpoint, and talking about spirituality as we're sniping. I mean, who knows? And I do have some games that I do want to highlight for some of the spiritual aspects and some of the benefits. Like there's a game called Plane that deals with meditation.
Oh my god, can we do an episode where we talk about religion in video games?
We can absolutely do that. There's a lot of video games out there that deal with religion and stuff, so that's
I would
absolutely an episode we can do.
I would love to do that.
Yes, we can have.
That's off topic though.
That's fine. That's fine. I mean, how often do I stay on topic on this show, anyways? Okay, if we don't go off on at least one tangent during an episode, it's not been an episode of this show. But to get back on topic, I'm gonna start off tonight talking about some of my own personal mental health issues that I've dealt with, and Puck's gonna kind of take the role of host during this why I discuss, and then we're going to flip flop, and we'll do it the other way around, but. So, to start off, I was in my early 20s when I was diagnosed with major depression recurrent, generalized anxiety disorder with panic attacks, and PTSD as well. I was at the point to where these diagnoses came after I just kind of struggled through things, and then all of a sudden, I believe I was around 23, 24, and started having massive anxiety attacks. The first anxiety attack I had, I thought I was having a heart attack. I thought I was dying. I stupidly drove myself to the emergency room.
Can I ask? Can I ask? Do you know what triggered it?
Not 100% what triggered it. I was at work. At that time, I was working as an assistant site supervisor at a security supervisor at a facility on an airport, and this was post 9/11. I was, if there was any kind of suspicious package or suspicious white powder, I was the person that got called in to go investigate it before the hazmat teams came in. And I was usually the one that would go and secure a site. There was some speculation that it was the stress from all of that.
I was going to say that sounds pretty stressful.
Yeah, that started triggering off some of the anxiety issues. But there were some deeper things from childhood and stuff that I dealt with through my teen years that I dealt with that probably were more the root of it. It was just that was the catalyst that kind of set it all off. Was just that extreme stress that I was starting to go under. I used to be that kind of person that the more stress there was, the better I functioned. And then all of a sudden that changed. And I started having the anxiety issues. The first, like I said, the first anxiety attack I had, I drove myself out to the hospital. I was at work. I was on duty. I had just started my shift. I hadn't gotten into anything that day. I was literally doing the start of shift, just checklist stuff, going through the monitors, checking all the alarm panels, checking all the different cameras and everything. And then like 15-20 minutes into it, I turned and looked at the other guy who was on duty with me, and I told him, I said, Nick, I said, you need to call the captain, tell him to get in here. I've got to go to the hospital. He said, why? I said, I feel like I'm having a heart attack or something. I said, my heart's racing. It won't stop. And the only way I could describe it was it felt like there was just like 1,000 butterflies flying through my veins. It was just this the weirdest sensation I could describe. And I just felt uneasy. and I was having trouble focusing. And the only thing that I could think of was, I need to get to the hospital right now. I need to get there right now. And we had EMTs that could have easily came and picked me up from the air base. That could have picked me up and taken me out there, but my mind was not thinking. I was in the middle of an anxiety attack. I wasn't thinking rationally. I wasn't thinking I need to call the EMT. The other guy was a younger guy, and so he was just going, well, you said to call the captain and you need to go. All right, well, I'll do what you said. And I was out the door, grabbed my keys, out the door, jumped in my car, drove over to the local emergency room, which was about 5-10 minutes away max, and walked in and told them, something, my heart's racing, like my breathing was really rapid. I told him, I said, my mind's racing. I said, I don't know what's wrong. And next thing I know, they had me back on a gurney, and there were doctors and nurses and all kinds of machines all around me in a heartbeat, because they thought I was having a heart attack. They had me hooked up to EKG and everything else. My heart was racing. I was up at almost 200 beats per minute of my heart rate, my pulse, and I was sustained that way for almost an hour and a half before they was able to get it down. They had to heavily sedate me to get it down. I was in the process of a massive anxiety attack. And of course, I got misdiagnosed. They didn't know exactly what was going on. This was like late 90s, early 2000 time frame. And so totally completely misdiagnosed. Totally completely. Actually it probably would have been early 2000s is when this was.
What did they diagnose you with?
Hypertension. High blood pressure.
Oh.
The EKG showed no damage to the heart, nothing. The heart was fine. So diagnosis was hypertension. Went to my family doctor, diagnosis, hypertension. So they put me on blood pressure medicine. It wasn't my blood pressure. I ended up bottoming out and almost passing out from being put on blood pressure medications. So during the course of trying to figure all this out, my doctor went, oh, well, after a while, he went, oh, well, maybe it's not your blood pressure after, I almost passed out from my blood pressure getting too low from the blood pressure medication. He said, maybe you're having anxiety issues. And I'm like, okay. So he put me on some medications, and it helped for a little bit. And then those medications, they helped mildly. And when I went back after a couple of months and said, this is so, I was having trouble working. It continued to get worse. It got to the point to where I ended up having to, one morning while I was getting ready for work, I was shaking so bad from my anxieties that I couldn't even button my uniform shirt. And just picking up the phone to call my boss to tell him that I wasn't going to be able to make it in that day took me about 10 minutes because I kept misdialing because my hands were shaking so bad I couldn't hold the phone and dial. I kept misdialing.
Can I ask a question?
Absolutely.
Have you ever thrown up from anxiety?
Oh, yeah.
That's happened to me before.
Oh, yeah. I have cried my eyes out from anxiety. I've been balled up in a corner from anxiety. I've had it to where it crippled me. I couldn't even move. Getting up off of the couch because I was in the midst of an anxiety attack there was no way. The house could have been on fire and I probably would not have been able to move because I was locked down from an anxiety attack. And so I went to the doctor, and this was just my family doctor, and I walked in and he's like, "Well, I want to put you on Valium," and I'm like, "Whoa, hold on, are we jumping a few steps right there with some things?" You know, he had me on Zoloft, and he wanted to jump from Zoloft to Valium right off the bat, and I'm like, "Hey, I'm pretty sure there's a few steps in there we have missed." And at that point in time, I realized he was not skilled or capable to handle mental health issues. And
Wait, he was he regular doctor?
yeah, he was an MD. He was also the head of the hospital. He was the head doctor for the hospital, local hospital.
Yeah,
Um,
that's tough.
yeah,
When
I was under the impression that I had a really skilled medical doctor that I was seeing, and he just didn't know about mental health issues or how to handle them properly. And so I ended up reaching out and getting some help through some local mental health resources and stuff that was available. And I was blessed enough to get put in contact with a really, really, really skilled psychiatrist. At that point in time, I started taking medications for anxiety, depression, and PTSD. They had me on Paxil and Klonopin is what I was taking,
Mhm.
and these were things I took on a regular basis. That was just part of my life at that point in time. I had to stop working. I ended up That's the point in time I ended up going on disability. I was lucky and skilled enough, lucky enough, not skilled. I was lucky enough that I had a skilled psychiatrist that knew what to do with the paperwork to get things pushed through for me to get disability. I got it the first time through, which is a rarity. It's an extreme rarity for that to happen. Um, and then I was also working with a counselor there at the facility that I was going to, and this was all outpatient and stuff. So I was, um, I was it wasn't like I was living there or anything. I was still in my own apartment and everything, and I was just going there for treatment. A couple times a week, I'd go and see the therapist. And I had a case manager who was helping me through all the paperwork stuff. And then I had my psychiatrist who was the real hero behind all of it for me. Her name was Dr. Robin Norman. And Dr. Norman was just absolutely amazing with her knowledge and skill. She took the time to explain things to me so I understood them. I'm a very analytical person at times, and she helped me really be able to break down and understand what was going on so that I could have a better understanding of it myself. And so as I was going through this process, one of the things that happened was the counselor that they had assigned me to was a Christian counselor. At that time, I was no longer within the church. I had left the church, and I was starting to follow more of a all-inclusive spirituality path. I was really heavy into paganism at the time, and I got into an issue where this counselor was trying to push her spiritual beliefs on me during our sessions.
Ooh,
Yeah,
that's that's grody.
it really was. It really was, and it became an issue. Um, because at that point in time, from that standpoint, she was basically telling me, "Well, you just need to go back to church. You need to get back right with God, and
Oh,
all, and like just giving me this line of, well, if you go do this, everything will be fine, and you'll be okay."
Oh my god. And
And
no pun intended.
yeah, and well, so I ended up going to my case manager and telling her this, and she brought in the that that therapist manager and or supervisor, and we had a discussion, and I left the care of that counselor, and actually that counselor ended up leaving a few weeks later. I don't know if they were terminated or if they just decided that they no longer needed to be there or what was the case, but they stopped working there. And it was one of those things that, the first couple of sessions that I'd had with her, she would like subtly slip the stuff in, and then she got real blatant about it, just real blatant about it. And um it became a struggle for me at that point in time, because I am trying to delve down my own personal spiritual path while dealing with my mental health issues, and basically being told that, oh, well, your path is wrong and that's why you're having these issues. And that wasn't any of it. It wasn't that my path was wrong. That was her perspective. You know, and that's something that on the show I think you've probably realized. I don't judge anyone's spiritual path. Whatever works for each individual
I,
person.
that's actually something that I very much wanted to say on this show is like everything like things just work differently for different people, and it's the same with mental health. Like some people, they just need some meditation and yoga and like a walk in the woods and they're fine.
Right.
Other people need medication and therapy and like a psychiatrist and like, but whatever, like whatever works for you, and don't be afraid to like try different things.
Absolutely. Well, and that's some of what I'm going to talk about on this is some of the things that worked for me, some of the things that didn't, some of the stuff that ended up going through, you know, and right now I'm just kind of giving some early in background information on some stuff, just so people kind of know where I ended up at. Um, so I went through that, and um, I ended up getting with a counselor that I worked with that I ended up enjoying. I could talk with them, like, I was going to these sessions, but I was still struggling. They were working with medications. They ended up putting me on time release Paxil. It was Paxil with a time release coating, and this was in and around 2006, I believe it was fall of 2006. They, I was getting my medications, and I got issued some time release Paxil that apparently there was some issues with the time release coating on the pill. A bad batch had
Oh,
gotten out, and they did not
oh
know it at the
no,
time.
oh no.
And so it was spiking real bad when it would go into your system. One of the
Jeez.
main things with that medication is if you do not.
What did you say it was Paxil?
Yep.
Hold on, I want to look at Paxil just to.
It's an antidepressant.
Okay.
Yep.
Oh yeah, it's used for OCD also. Yep.
Yep.
Okay, that's fine. Uh-huh.
And I, here's one of the things. If that medication works for you, if you're on that medication and it works and you're seeing great results with it, do not take what I'm saying about this medication and say, "Oh, well,
Yeah,
I'm not going to take that." Um,
they've actually scientifically proved that different medications work differently on people. Like there's a DNA test you can
yep.
take now
I've
that tells
actually
you which medications work better for you.
I've actually had that DNA test done. It's called GeneSight. At least the one I had done was called Gene Sight, and they swab the inside of your mouth. They take it and they tell you exactly what medications work best for you, which ones don't. And it will tell you the likelihood of severe interactions with these medications. Come to find out, after I got that was years after this, I'm on the spectrum where Paxil can give me severe interactions.
Oh no.
They didn't know it. I mean, the doctors at that point in time did not know it. They didn't have that at their
Technology.
disposal at their time. So yeah.
Yeah.
So it really was kind of at that point in time kind of one of those games where it's like, okay, we're going to give you this one and we're going to see how this does. If it doesn't work, we'll switch you over to something else. And
Mm-hmm.
I had been through that game with medications and stuff. Like they had me on Effexor before I went on to Paxil, and the Effexor was bad for me. I felt like I was on speed. I was bouncing off the walls. I didn't sleep for a week straight. I went back in. I said, "You have got to get me off of this." I felt like I was going insane on the Effexor. For some people, that medication works brilliant for them. But in 2006, well, it was just about a week before Christmas. um I was on that Paxil, that had the time release coding. And folks, I want you to know, I'm not delving out medical advice in the show right now. This is simply me talking about my experiences and what has helped me. Please, please, please talk with your medical professionals. Please talk with your therapist, your counselors, whoever. Do not quit any medications cold turkey or anything along those lines. This is not intended to be medical advice. I'm just sharing my experiences with some of the things that I have dealt with. Um, but what happened was, a week, just a little, about 5 6 days before Christmas. um I woke up. I was living in a studio apartment. I woke up and I was totally completely numb. Couldn't feel anything. I didn't have any kind of emotions. I felt totally completely disassociated from everything in the room. It was like I was there but I wasn't there.
Mm. Like like you're disassociating, but you weren't.
I mean, there was definitely a disassociation, but it was, I felt like I was sitting in my apartment, but yet I wasn't really there. Hold on a second. Taking Tanner's collar off because he's scratching. He's gonna make a bunch of noise. Um, and like I just, like, I felt like, honestly, the easiest way to put it was I felt like I was a ghost. I honestly, at that point in time, had thought that I was dead, and this is what it was like to be dead, because I felt absolutely nothing. And I got up and I walked around my apartment, and I went and splashed water on my face, and just, I didn't feel anything. Like, I mean, I could feel the water hitting my face, but as far as like a sensation of like shock because it was cold or anything, just not there. Like, it was just, I was just numbed out. And I kept trying to do something to get sensation, to feel sensation, because it was freaking me out.
Oh, did you hurt yourself?
I did end up taking a razor blade and cut my arm in a few places, and luckily enough, because at the same time I'd also had my pills next to me, and I was considering, well, if I'm really dead, then it's not going to hurt if I take all of these.
Mm.
And that was the state of mind I was in. And I was lucky enough that the razor blade nicked deep enough and caught a nerve that I felt something. And at that point in time, I went, okay, something is really, really wrong. I have never felt like this before. And it was the middle of the night. So I went up to the emergency room, and I was having, suicidal thoughts with this. And I went and I told him. I said, I'm having suicidal thoughts. I said, I feel numb. I don't know what's going on. Um, I need help. Um, I ended up having the the nursing staff and the doctors there were great. They came. They was real compassionate. They were checking in on me. But then they had this lady come down who does mental health assessments, and this lady was just ignorant. Like, she should not be working mental health at all. The way she came down, the way she approached me, the way she came at me, was triggering, and I started getting aggressive with her because I was in a state where I really didn't care at that point in time. And I told this lady, I said, you need to back off. I said, I'm done with you. And I told them, I said, you need to call my case manager from the mental health and recovery services that I was working with. And I told them, and so they had an emergency number where they could get a hold of them, and they got a hold of my case manager. My case manager got up. It was 5:30 in the morning by the time she got there, and she came in, she got in that lady's face, and she bulldogged her. And she told her to back off, that, I was her client. She knew how to work with me, and she knows that this was not typical for my behavior, and that something severe was going on, and that I needed help. I didn't need someone in there. The lady that was from the hospital was not being helpful or beneficial in any way, shape, or form. And so what ended up happening was, they had agreed that I needed to go to the psych ward at, they didn't have a psych ward at that hospital, but the next county over had one. And that I needed to go there for more intensive treatment and care. Under basically full watch. They put me under suicide watch. And I needed to be under more intensive care of a psychiatric team that could help figure out what was going on and get me stabilized and get me back to where I needed to be. And so there was some other issues with that lady and stuff, and she tried to come in and act like she was in charge and in command of things, and try to say she was going to do this or that, and it was basically, she was basically doing things that was triggering me, and my case manager knew it. And my case manager told her to back off. You're triggering him. You're causing him to get worse. You don't need to be in here. And she actually had the doctors ban her from the room. Because I had said that I was having suicidal thoughts, they posted a county sheriff outside of my room. And that sheriff was there for a suicide watch. The next thing I knew, when they got ready to transport me, they came in and they gave me a really strong anti-anxiety medication. I forget what it was. I forget what the medications were. They gave me a really strong shot of one in one arm.
I was worried you were remembering all the medications you were taking, and I was like, damn it, I can't remember all the meds I've taken.
Oh, God, no. I can't remember the names of all of them. I can remember some of them. I can remember the main ones. And then they gave me a really, really heavy tranquilizer in the other arm. And they just sedated me out. the next things I remember was the two guys that picked me up in the ambulance to transport me to the other hospital coming into the room, and there was some kind of discussion and about different things, and the guys were really nice. I remember that. I remember they were super, super nice guys, and they're like, don't worry, we're going to take care of you. You're all right. We got you. And I remember getting into the ambulance, and then the next thing I remember, and it's like a 30 to 40 minute ride. The next thing I remember is getting out of the ambulance. And them having to stand one on each side of me, like helping me walk through the hospital to get to the psych ward where the psych ward was. And they had called ahead. They had a room ready for me and stuff. And I went right in. They put me on a bed, and I was out. I remember a doctor coming in and waking me up, telling me that they was going to do some medication shifts, and that they had to get me off of the Paxil because they had found out that it was the time release coating with the Paxil that was causing me problems, and they had to get me off of that, and they had to do it cold turkey. That they couldn't step me down off of the Paxil. So what they done was they heavily medicated me with Seroquel and basically put me into a pseudo coma for about 2 days to bring me down off of the Paxil and start me on other medications that would help me regulate out. I ended up spending 7 days in the Greene County hospital psych ward. I was there over Christmas. I spent 7 days in there, and it was a very enlightening 7 days, because after the 2.5, 3 days in, I was more alert. I was up. I was awake. I was around. And I was able to, walk the halls and stuff. They had a common room and a sitting room. They had an area you could go and sit and watch TV and stuff. And it was a really interesting 7 days being in there. I had a nurse who would come in. She worked the evening shift. She would come in and she'd spend a couple hours sitting in my room with me, talking with me. She had a daughter around my age who had dealt with some mental health issues as well. And so she kind of took a real motherly role. During this time, my parents only came and saw me once the whole time I was there, even though there was visitation every day. I think it was kind of the stigma that I was in the psych ward that they just didn't want to handle or couldn't handle. And the day I got released, I remember calling them and asking them to come pick me up, and they said they couldn't. And I had no way home. My van was at a parking lot of a hospital, a full different county away, 30, 40 minute drive away. So I ended up reaching out to a pastor I knew and said, hey, I'm stuck up here at this psych ward. They're releasing me. I need a ride. Can you give me a ride back to my car? And he did. He gave me a ride back to my car. On the way, he stopped. We ate. He bought me a meal. I didn't have any money with me. I didn't have anything with me. I had my keys. I did have my wallet. I just didn't have any money because I didn't have my, I hadn't been to an ATM or anything. And, we sat, we chat, we talked, and that was a real eye-opener for me about the seriousness of mental health and what I was really dealing with. Now, I was on medications for several years after that. I couldn't even tell you what all the different medications I went through, because I went through quite a few after that, trying to figure out which ones would work for me. In time, I got to the point to where medications just weren't cutting it for me. I felt like I was just a zombie, that I wasn't really functioning. And so I started working through other ways. I started working with meditation. I started working with, mindfulness techniques. I started relying more heavily on my spiritual path as a way to help me pull through some of these things. And that became an avenue for me to not only go deeper through these, but also to work through some of my mental health aspects by doing shadow work, which honestly, and the funny thing is, we talk about shadow work and the spiritual aspect so much, but the term was originally phrased by Carl Jung, who is a really famous psychologist. And all this time, not one of the counselors, therapists, psychologists that I had worked with had ever said, "Hey, have you ever heard of shadow work?" I learned about this through my spiritual path, not through any of the psychology stuff that I had been working and delving through. They just, for some reason, that aspect of approaching that and dealing with that was just something that they weren't willing to do. And I don't know why. But they didn't address that with me. In hindsight, I really wish they had, because it's something that if they had addressed, I could have done something about it. I could have said, "Hey, I want to focus in on this, or I want to focus in on that. I want to do something to help out with this or help out with that." And so it was just something I struggled through for a long time. And like I said, it was really once I got into my spiritual path that I discovered shadow work, and I started doing that shadow work. I started looking at the things that, first off, I started looking at what triggered me, what made me react in certain ways. And then I started looking into why do those things make me react that way. And it took some hard work and a lot of deep introspection, a lot of meditation, and some plant medicine work to get to a point where I feel like I've got it under control better now than I ever have. I won't say that it's gone. I was dealing with some pretty severe anxieties this past weekend. I was having some health issues this past weekend, and I was funny enough at the same hospital, in the emergency room at the same hospital. Actually, funny enough, the same room that I was in the night that I went in with the mental health issues. Dealing with some really bad pain issues and stuff from my abdominal hernia. And I was having lots of anxieties because we were having some serious complications, and they were talking about bringing in the on-call surgeon in emergency surgery. And as soon as they said that, my anxiety spiked. And luckily enough, I once they got me medicated enough that the pain was in check, and the nausea that I was dealing with was in check, I was able to go back to my meditation. I was able to work on my breathing techniques. I was able to focus on things. I was able to bring my anxiety levels down and into control to where I wasn't in a panic. and work through it. And the surgeon did walk into my room and talk with me, but luckily by that point in time we had resolved the issues, and it was he wasn't really needed, but he did give some advice, and offered out some suggestions to the doctors of medications and stuff, so I don't have repeat issues with that. So I was thankful that he did get called in, because he's liable to have done work that's going to keep me from have to have that situation happen again. But it's one of those things that I had to take a hard look at myself to figure out what.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Do you regret going through all those medications and stuff?
Um. I mean, yes and no. I mean, I had to go through them to figure out what worked and what didn't. And I'm not sure that if I hadn't went through all those things, that it would have led me to the point to where I got to where I decided I didn't need them. Because I literally went through a huge gambit of them. I got to the point where I'm like, man, I don't want to go through the whole deal of trying to take something else and have it not work. Because of the effects of them. Like I said, effects made me feel like I was bouncing off the wall. When I take Klonopins, they would just kind of zone me out. I was just there. I was just sit me in front of a TV and I'll just sit there and stare at it for the rest of the day. And I'll get up, I'll eat, I'll drink, go to the bathroom, take a shower, probably go to bed. But that was my life. I wasn't living. I wasn't doing much beyond that. I was simply existing. And for me, that wasn't enough. I needed something more. I wasn't content with that, because that wasn't how I was living life before. And I wanted to get back to living life instead of just merely existing. Because I felt like that's what I was doing. I wasn't living. I was just existing.
I know what that feels like.
Oh yeah.
Sometimes it's okay just to exist, though.
I mean, there's times where that's what you've got to do to get through to the next phase, and to get beyond. You've got to keep pushing and pushing through, and doing things until you find out what works for you, so that you can start that healing process. Like that, my healing process didn't really start until, for me, until I stopped taking the medications, because I was so numbed out from the medications, I wasn't able to do much. And by all means, like I said, I am not telling people to not take medications. There's a lot of instances where people absolutely need medications. I just felt like they weren't necessary for me myself. I didn't feel like I was getting much benefit out of them. I had always kind of had this idea that, if you find the right medication, then your world's going to get back to normal. And that never happened for me. I tried returning back to work several times. I was never able to do so. And and truth be told, the anxiety issues and stuff are still there at times. Some of the depression still comes in at times. It's just I've learned how to handle it better now along this path than taking all the medications. And I still got a lot of work to do. I'm not perfect. I haven't, conquered it all. But it no longer controls me like it once did.
That's good.
Yeah. I mean, more so these days, it's more chronic pain issues that will trigger off the depression and the anxieties than anything. And it's just, having really bad pain days and being like, oh man, I wanted to go do something and I'm not going to be able to do it because, I'm having trouble just, getting up and walking down the hallway or, going to the kitchen and fixing some food because of chronic pain issues.
Well, and that's another thing too that people forget is like chronic illness and mental illness are hand in hand.
Absolutely.
Like it's literally like a symptom of a lot of chronic illnesses that you have mental issues.
Oh yeah, a lot of chronic issues and chronic health issues and stuff will cause severe depression, will cause severe anxiety, will cause all kinds of different health issues, mental health issues. And that's another thing that you've got to consider is not everything mental health issue wise might be from some traumatic past experience or something. It could be from a chronic health issue, which is every bit as traumatizing to people in different ways. And I think anything that takes your normal quality and standard of life and kind of flips it upside down from what you was used to, it can be a real traumatizing factor in things and can have severe impacts on your mental well-being. But
Yes.
we've hit about the halfway point of the show, and I think we've talked about me enough.
Is it my turn?
Let's talk about you.
Yay. Okay, where do I start? So I feel like in order to talk about me, I first have to talk about my mother.
Oh, we're getting Freudian right here now.
So, my mother. Oh, actually, I can go even further back. Further back than that, my grandmother. Mental illness runs my family. There we go. That's the easier way to say it. But it's the first documented case of it happening in my family that I know of is my grandmother's father, when she was, I forget how old, she was still a child, got killed by a train walking down the train tracks in the middle of a schizophrenic episode, apparently. So that's the first major thing. Then we have I'm related to there's rock star Del Shannon, who killed himself after he was on I forget that medication. It starts with a P. It's antidepressant. It's not Paxil though. It's like another one.
Prozac?
But anyway, Prozac. Yeah, Prozac for 2 weeks, and then he committed suicide. He committed suicide like a month before my brother was born, which kind of bums me out. Because, he never got to, meet, anyway. But then, so, my grandmother had some issues, and was on various, I guess she had anxiety issues, but I never quite knew what she had going on until I just know that sometimes she would joke about, do you need to take one of my pills? If I was freaking out, she would offer me one of her pills to chill out. Like, oh, okay, Grandma. I never took the pills, by the way. Just, but
different time, a different age.
But my mother was diagnosed with bipolar disorder when she was in her 40s. And it caused her to be scared that her children might also have this illness. So she got right away into, like, I need to take you to counselors, I need to take you to therapists, I'm taking you to psychiatrists, we're gonna see, if you've got, anything too. And the first thing I was diagnosed with was anxiety, but they never did anything about it. They were just like, you have this thing. And I was like, all right, cool, now what? And they're like, that's it. You have it.
Yeah.
Go on with your life. And I was just like, what the fuck?
I was the same way though, because one of the things I always asked them when I'd go to the therapist or a counselor, I'd be like, can you teach me coping techniques to deal with this? And I never got them. They would never, it was some, you have to pass through some ancient order in order to gain access to these techniques.
Yeah. So I had this anxiety that I didn't know what to do with, or anything. And then, but then there was still something wrong with me, because I would frequently stay up all night long just writing in my journal. But if you could call it writing, it was more like scribbling, just just words, just nonsense, just whatever was coming to my head, just for pages and pages, just go on and on. And I would just do that like all night. And finally they were like, well, we think you have some sort of depression, so we're gonna put you on Zoloft. And we found out at that point that I have OCD, because when they put me on Zoloft, these tics that I had been experiencing but didn't even know I was experiencing suddenly all stopped. And I was like, oh shit, that's weird, I'm not doing these things anymore. And they're like, oh, it appears you have OCD. And I was like, okay, that's cool, that's another one to add to the list. And then during this time that they had me on Zoloft, something went wrong, because so I wasn't depressed anymore, but I was like in a constant state of mania, just all the time, just always manic. And they were like, oh, this might not be just depression. Let's figure this out. Then they discovered I have bipolar disorder. Specifically, I think I have, oh, which number bipolar do I have? I always forget. It's the one that's supposed to be for men. It's more common in men.
I'm not familiar with the bipolar diagnosis and stuff.
Well, anyway, that happened. Though sometime at some point during this journey of medication taking, I was on other medications that did horrible things to me, that turned me into a zombie, that made my world in slow motion, that apparently took away my emotions.
Sounds familiar.
Friends noticed mostly. But yeah, oh, and also at some point my mom tried to kill herself. I should mention that kind of affected things. Oh, did I mention I have PTSD? Anyway, so at some point during this journey through taking different medications and stuff, I had a very, very, very bad mental health day, to which I basically begged my mom, crying and screaming on my knees, to take me to a hospital. Please, for the love of God, please. She took me to the hospital, where I was put in this observation room that had nothing in it except for like a couple of cameras and a really big window. And it was me and my mom just sitting there. And my mom went from being very supportive and wanting me to find help, being very mad and cranky and thinking I was wasting her time. which sucked because I felt like I needed help.
Right.
So I talked to the doctors or whatever, and they're like, all right, we're gonna set you up with this like outpatient care thing over at this facility, which was the same facility that my mom went to after she tried to kill herself. I was like, oh, I am intimately familiar with that facility, as I had to go there several days a week with my grandparents to visit my poor ailing mother. So I know exactly what it is. uh, my favorite part, my favorite parts of this outpatient program is we watched this video in which they gave a bunch of scientific facts about mental health, in which one of the scientific facts was that if you suffer from depression, your bones are weaker, and you're more likely to develop stuff like osteoporosis and shit. And I was very upset about that at the time. Uh, and my other favorite part is I've been speaking slightly more formally than I normally do for this podcast, though I have slipped out a swear here and there, but I tend to talk very blue, or speak very blue. I swear a lot. I use quote unquote ghetto language a lot. I use meme language, you know. They did not like that at the facility.
Okay.
They said that I quote unquote was talking too urban for them, and they wanted me to speak more, I don't know, eloquently or correctly or whatever. I don't know. They just didn't like the way that I spoke. Was the other thing I took away from the outpatient thing. So shows how well it worked, right?
Right. I mean, when I was in the psych ward, they didn't care how we spoke when we was in there. I mean, they was happy that we was talking to them.
I don't know. They were being bitches in my case, I guess.
I don't know. I mean, to pick on someone about how they're speaking when they're dealing with mental health, I think is kind of petty because I don't know.
But anyway, so at some point, I don't remember exactly. I feel like I should go through my timeline a little more thoroughly, or I should have gone through my timeline a little more thoroughly. But at some point, I ended up on lithium, and lithium works wonderfully for me. And lithium is not like as bad a drug as some of the other drugs insofar as like composition, because it's literally made from just like a natural element. Like, you know, you can literally go to like the mountains in like certain parts of the world and find like lithium baths and just like chill in the lithium baths and get the same like effect as taking lithium pills.
Okay.
So yeah. Only problem with lithium is you can't take ibuprofen, because ibuprofen will raise your lithium level. And if you raise your lithium level up too high, it can damage your kidneys and do bad things to your kidneys. And the other bad thing is you have to get your blood drawn every once in a while to make sure your lithium levels are, you know, too wonky.
Right.
But it doesn't bug me so much. Like, I'm fine with needles and blood. Like, I'm into weird shit. But I was still having really bad, so that helped my bipolar disorder with the lithium. But I was still having really bad problems with anxiety, like just really bad problems. My anxiety mostly centers around cars and being in cars and driving cars and just everything to do with cars. Like I will be sitting in a car and I will think of every horrible bad thing that could possibly happen in that car ride. Like I it people my I will be in a car and a car will drive a little too close to the curb and I will like flinch and like close my eyes. And um so I was still having problems with anxiety, and I had been smoking weed by this point, mostly for migraines here and there, and occasionally just to get stoned for funsies. But I discovered that if I smoked weed more regularly, well, in addition to I have fibromyalgia also, but that's kind of related but separate. But I discovered when I smoked weed more regularly, it cut my anxiety like in half.
Mm-hmm.
Like things were much more like tolerable. I even felt like how some people when they start having anxiety attack they like pop a pill to chill out.
Right.
Like I would find if I started feeling anxiety and I like took a hit, like I would feel my heart start to slow down and like just like yeah. And then it wasn't quite I wasn't quite at like the point I wanted to be yet. So like I looked up different I'm kind of fucking up the timeline, but I looked up different techniques for like calming down. Like I looked up, there's like a special breathing technique that slows down your heart. Like you inhale for so many seconds, you hold for so many seconds, and
In
then you
for 5,
exhale.
hold for 5, exhale for 5.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and it
The
also
5,
works
5,
better
5.
if you do it like through your nose and like out through your mouth.
Mm-hmm.
So I learned about stuff like that. I also learned about like grounding, where like if you're starting to have an anxiety attack, basically you just kind of think of like, okay, where are my feet right now? Okay, my feet are here. I feel my feet. Okay, where are my hands right now? My hands are here. Okay, and then you just slowly go from your body outward into your environment until like you kind of quote unquote come back from it.
Yeah.
But also another medication helps me out, Latuda. I started taking Latuda. It's you take it at night, it puts you to sleep, and it's just there's a little cherry on top of the cake that helps my anxiety feel better. It helps because it helps me. My fibromyalgia kind of helps. I have trouble falling asleep and like staying asleep sometimes. So having a pill that like helps make me go to sleep also helps my fibromyalgia, though it's not directly
Right.
whatever. But
On grounding techniques, I want to touch on something real quick. Have you ever done the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 grounding technique?
what's that?
It's 5 things you can see, 4 things you can feel, 3
Oh
things you
yeah,
can
I have
hear,
heard of that.
2 things you can smell, and 1 thing you can taste.
Mm.
And it's to bring you back into, grounding you into what's all around you right now. And that really helps if you're doing the disassociation, and you can bring yourself back from that as well.
So the next. Oh, sorry.
I was just going to say it's really great for anxiety, though. That's one of the ones that I used quite a bit was the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. That and the 5, 5, 5 breathing. Sometimes people will say 7 or 5, 7, 5, or they'll do it differently for the numbers on the breathing. But I've always done 5, 5, 5.
Whatever works.
Yep. It's just controlling your breathing's what it's basically bringing you back into.
So the next thing I would like to talk about is so most of my mental health journey took place in New Hampshire, and I now live in Massachusetts. And I just want to say that where you live does matter when it comes to finding help for your mental health, because when I moved to Massachusetts, I found far more programs and stuff that were willing to like help me that dealt with mental health issues and stuff.
Yeah.
Like there's something called the Mass Rehab Commission. I went to see them and they helped me. I got a thing through them to go to college where the state pays my tuition. And they helped me get into college or whatever. And then in college, the community college I went to, there was a great disabilities group that helped everybody, and they were awesome. And then there was another group called the TRIO program that specialized in helping people with learning disabilities. So if you had any kind of like learning disabilities or whatever, they would help you, and then they would basically any kind of help you needed. And there was a great
Yeah.
counselor too at that school. But yeah, so I guess try and find. I wish I had like information for all the different states, but you should try and find as many, groups that are out there that want to help as you can, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, well, a great resource like we was talking about um before the show, you and me was discussing, and I was talking about NAMI, the National Alliance on Mental Health.
Yes, I have
Um
some.
yeah. And so NAMI is a great resource. I'm actually going to post their website into the chat right now, and I'll put this down into the description of the show when it goes up on. But NAMI is a great resource for getting in touch with to find out what resources are in your area. They'll help you with that. Uh,
I also want to talk about some other things.
okay.
So what should you do if a friend or a loved one is having a mental issue and needs help?
Okay.
Don't call the cops.
Bad idea.
Yes, just whatever you do, do not call the cops.
And that's because law enforcement is not trained to handle mental health issues. They are not trained to deal with people that are having a mental health break. That is not part of their training. They are giving some very basic psychology, but that is not what they're specialized in.
Exactly. I mean, the best thing to do is like, call anyone who's like friendly to the person, just not the cop. Like call their other friends and loved ones. Call their fucking teachers. Call some, like, I don't know. Call anyone.
Call clergy if they're spiritual, if they're religious. Get their clergy involved. If it's someone they trust. If you think that they're going to be harmful to themselves, get them to a hospital. I mean, I personally am very thankful for the people that helped me through when I went to the hospital.
Can I give another little mental health tip?
Absolutely.
Okay. So part of helping our mental health, sometimes we need to vent or rant to somebody. Totally cool, totally viable way of dealing with stuff. I'm all for it. Like, I'm personally big on rants. I will listen to a good rant. But you should also be wary of the person that you're ranting to's mental health. Try and, ask them, like, hey, is it okay if I, dump on you? Like, because some people just aren't in the headspace. And if you just dump without, like, you know, giving clearance first, you might make everyone's day bad.
Very true. Very true. There's a lot of times where I tell people commonly, if you need to talk, reach out to me. But there's been a few times where I've had to tell people, hey, I I need to get back to you later. I just can't talk to you right now, or I've got a lot going on. I've got a lot on my plate. I can see if someone else is available to talk to you if you need someone right now. You know, but just there's some times where you just can't take that on because you've got a lot of stuff that you're dealing with as well.
Exactly.
That kind of gets into that whole thing and the if you've ever flown where they tell you, put your own oxygen mask on first before helping others.
Exactly. Yeah. That's totally true. Yep.
Yep.
All right. can we talk about one of my favorite topics, or at least something adjacent to one of my favorite topics?
Okay.
Can we talk about mental illness portrayed in video games?
Oh yeah. Oh,
All right. Well, let's.
you know one of the games that I played deals heavily
Yes,
with
exactly.
mental
Yeah,
illness.
that's what I wanted. I wanted to bring that up.
Okay. Yeah,
I
because
love that. I
I've
love
done
that
that
game.
massive stream. I've got that on my other
Yeah,
YouTube channel.
everyone, check that out. Check that out.
I'll grab that and pull it over to this channel. It's like an 8 hour long stream though.
I mean, someone will watch it.
But yeah,
I mean,
let's
I watched parts of it.
yeah, we can definitely discuss that, and that game, we can go in and talk about that game too. The name of the game that we're discussing is Hellblade: Senua's Sacrifice.
It's a really cool game. Y'all should check it out.
It really is. Ninja Theory is a studio who put it out, and they done a lot of really great in depth work with that game. They brought in psychiatrists and psychologists. They had therapists and counselors on set while they was doing everything, and they actually done motion capture with an actress for the facial reactions and everything, and they had people there working with her to make sure that she captured everything correctly, but also because of how in-depth this game got into dealing with mental illness, they was there to also make sure that her own mental well-being was okay throughout the process.
That's cool.
Yeah, oh, it definitely is. And in the game, what it is Senua is dealing with psychosis. She's hearing voices. She's going through a lot. She snapped. And it goes through. Actually, it talks about her even experiencing these things as a child in different parts in the game. They talk about her always dealing with this, how she was always perceived as different. But it's a really beautiful game. I was very thankful to my mods and the people that was with me during that stream, because it kind of can wear on you mentally to play it through like I did. But that was a stream that I done on my Twitch channel a while back, and that was let me see if I can actually find that. And I can see if I can't post up a link to it. But yeah, that was a really interesting ordeal. I done that as a mental health stream. I was discussing mental health during that time when I was doing that.
Are you gonna post a link?
I'm looking for it. I'm trying to find it.
Sorry, I should be doing this. I'm your mod.
I mean, you can discuss anything you want to about that. Man, did I not get that uploaded?
Well, I just thought that the way that they portrayed her like hallucinations and stuff was really good. Like, not necessarily realistic, but like the art of it in the game, like it just looks really good.
Well, I mean, and part of the game deals with her. She's going into the Viking underworld. She's going into Helheim to recover the soul of her lover, who was killed by Vikings. She's a Celt, and she's going to recover his soul from Helheim. And so that's some of what they're depicting is her doing that journey into that mythological land. But they do show her dealing with some mental health issues. You know, I do not think that made it onto any of the channels, but there is Um, I did highlight the whole thing on my Twitch. So there is a 10-hour and 18-minute Twitch video.
Wow.
Yeah. I done it all in one sit through. And here is a link to that. But that game brilliantly deals with mental health, and it's put in such a way, and it's got so many reviews from people that's dealt with mental health issues that said this game finally allowed others to understand what it is I'm going through. Where, you know, I like one of them particularly was a girl said her brother played the game, and as he was playing the game and dealing with everything that Sinua was going through, his sister was sitting there going, that's what I deal with. And he was able to understand her better. And so he was able to connect with her better because of that. And that's what this game done. And so I think it's really critical when we see what game developers like Ninja Theory did with that, to see what else they may be able to do in the realms of working with mental health and bringing it to the forefront in games to show people what this is like so they can relate to their loved ones who are dealing with it. Because if you haven't dealt with mental health issues, it's really difficult to understand what they are. You know, to me, trying to explain depression to people when I was, you know, when I'm dealing with depression, it's really difficult because I'm, you know, I would get the, well, everybody gets depressed. You know, why are you any different? And I'm like,
Oh
well,
my god.
I,
I once went to pick up my medications with my father, and I was picking up birth control and my antidepressants at the time, and I got the birth control, started walking away, and realized they hadn't given me my antidepressants. So I was like, "Wait, Dad, I gotta go back. They didn't give me my other pills." And he's like, "What other pills?" And I was like, "Antidepressants." And he's like, "You have nothing to be depressed about."
yeah, they don't understand that it's not a when you're dealing with clinical depression, it's different than just being sad or having a bad day, you know, where you're depressed. Everybody deals with a day where they're depressed, you know, that's just part of life, you know. And that's, you know, you're sad, you know, that's an emotion people will feel, but clinical depression is different, and people don't understand that. You know, when you're in a state of dealing with a clinical depression, it's a constant state of that. I used to tell people that my good days are probably what you consider your bad days. That
And and sometimes, like, this might sound a little weird, but sometimes you have to break down to, like, get better.
oh
Like, sometimes you just gotta, just go into baby mode, I call it.
yeah,
Get like get your favorite blankie, grab a bottle of something, grab some cereal, and just act like a
hey,
baby for a little bit.
hey, I tell you what, at one point in time when my depression and my anxiety and everything was bad, the one thing that would kept me getting through was I had a copy of Robin Williams Live in Hollywood, the stand up, and that would get me through. I would laugh and it would make me feel better. And I would watch that video over and over and over and over. And sometimes, if that's what it takes for you to get through, that's what you do.
Oh man, I have a I have I call it my it's basically like an emergency kit, but it's not a physical emergency kit. It's basically just things that make me feel better, like just a
Mm-hmm.
mental list of things that make me feel better. Like sometimes it's little things like the smell of a book, like
Yep.
like a really good book smell. Sometimes it's like something more obvious, like watching my favorite YouTube channel, Funhouse, or I just try, or like goats. Goats make me feel happy. If I see some goat videos, I'm Gucci. But like you keep these little things filed away in the back of your head, or you tell your friends and loved ones like, "Hey, if I'm in a bad mood, throw some fucking goat gifs on my page," and then there you go.
Yeah, and I mean sometimes it's and those are what we would refer to as self care. It's those things that you've got to do to help yourself out. And sometimes it could be a favorite cup of tea or a particular meal or a blanket or a pet or a person. You just want to spend time with a certain pet or a certain person because they make you feel better about yourself. But um Summer says something that makes me feel better is curling up in bed with my big squishy animal when I'm dealing with bad mental issues. Absolutely. If I'm having a bad day, Tanner knows it and he is right there. I actually got Tanner while I was still dealing with a lot of my mental health issues, and I was still dealing with a lot of my depression and anxiety. And the therapist told me, get Tanner. Well, she didn't say specifically Tanner, but she said, get a dog. And she actually prescribed me a dog as therapy.
I
And
mean,
that,
sometimes that works too. I mean,
yeah.
sometimes it's just playing video games, man. Like, you know what helped me out of bad depression? Overwatch.
Hey,
Overwatch helped me for years.
if that's what works, then that's what works. For me, it was one of those things that my depression and my anxiety and my pain had me to where I didn't want to get out of bed at the start of the day. And so getting Tanner and having this dog that had to rely on me to get up, to let him out to go to the bathroom, to get him food, to get him water, to pet him, to love on him, take care of him, you know, he pulled me through. If it's Overwatch that pulls you through, by God, fire up that Overwatch and.
Speaking of, can I say off topic? Well, I mean, it's on topic now because we're talking about Overwatch, but uh, we're doing my Discord is doing a community night for Overwatch after it goes crossplay, and we're gonna try and get as many different platforms in one place as possible. If you're down, message me by
Absolutely.
whatever.
Actually, Puck is on my Discord, so that's a good way to connect with Puck. And
Yes.
then the links for my Discord are always. I mean, if you're on the page right now, they're up in the banner. There's a link for the Discord there. There's links in the Discord, or links for the Discord in the description of all the show episodes. So and just look for I believe your Puckery on.
Yes, I think I'm puckery.
Yeah. So
It's hard. I know. I should try and stay to all things, but I'm puckery in some places. I'm GGPuck in other places. I'm GGPuckery. It depends.
So yeah, just you can connect with Puck and get involved with that if you want to. And building communities and having communities that you can get involved in is honestly a very, very healthy aspect to help with your mental health.
Oh
You
my
know,
god, I don't know what I would have done through the pandemic if I did not have my Discord. I
oh,
lived I lived in my Discord, dude.
Oh,
just all the
it's
time.
it's one of those things when everything started to happen with this, and you started seeing all these people talking about how I don't know how I'm going to deal with this. I don't have anyone to talk to. I don't have anyone to hang out with. Gamers were like, "Well, we've got this taken care of. We're ready for this.
Yeah.
We've been preparing for this for a while. You know, we've got our Discord channels, we've got our gaming groups, we've got our communities and stuff." And so it,
Yeah, if anything, I got slightly more social during the pandemic because of it.
probably so. I think there was an uptake in the amount of everything with gamers and stuff, and I think part of it was because being at home, a lot of us had more time to do those things. So we were tying in deeper with our communities and stuff. We were more active with our communities than we may have been in previous months or weeks or years.
I know we are on YouTube right now, but I have another recommendation. Uh, if you're on Twitch, I don't know if they have this on YouTube. I mean, I don't know how streaming on YouTube works. Really, I should know, but I don't. Um, but on Twitch they have tags, right?
You can
So,
you can do tags on episodes, like shows that you put up, but I don't know about the streaming yet. I like I said, I'm kidding. This is my first live stream on
well,
here technically.
if you've been diagnosed with a mental illness and you're like, still not sure with how to deal with it or whatever, find a streamer that has the same mental illness you have and hang out in their chat. Like, don't be too direct with them. Like, don't like spew all your mental health blah in their chat. That's rude. Like, don't do that. But like be like, hey, I have this thing too, and then maybe me can make friends and like find out other things eventually when you make friends. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Right, and it's a way of building community, and I don't know if they have specific tags for different mental health issues, but I know they have a mental health tag on
oh,
Twitch.
no, Twitch has they just you are behind, so they
Am I?
released 250 tags,
When?
like recently, including I literally have PTSD as one of my tags.
Well,
I have
that's new.
I have chronic illness as one of my tags. You can have all kinds of things. You can have VTuber as one of your tags now. You can have transgender as your tag. You can have all sorts of genders and sex stuff, and yeah.
All kinds of stuff.
Well, I think it's important. It's important
It
to
well,
be
it
to.
is, and especially with the way that community is set up, I think those things are very important. And on YouTube, you just kind of write your tags in with the episodes when you put up an episode of whatever. When you put a video up, you can tag it with different things. They just ask that you don't excessively tag. They don't want you putting an episode up and then tagging like 500 different things just so you can get people from every aspect as possible coming to look at your videos. But I will have to look more into the streaming aspect of what you can all put up with the live streaming, because I'm not sure what you can do tag wise. Because I know I can do title, I can do category, I can make it public, but I'm not 100% sure what all else I can do up with that. So I will have to look into that a little more. So is there anything else that you want to bring up this evening?
Well, I know I already said it, but I still want to emphasize how important it is that you literally try like every combination of things. Like, leave no stone unturned, as they say. Like, if you like, I mean, maybe don't try like super experimental stuff unless like you're, that daring, I guess. But like don't be like don't be like, oh, it's either science or or spirituality or neither, or you know what I mean? Like don't.
Well, yeah, it's not an either or. I mean, it's not
Well,
that.
some people get that way though.
I see that, especially in the spirituality community and stuff. They're like, well, you just need to stop
Yeah,
taking
they're
those
like
pills and this. And I'm like, no, no,
yeah.
no, no. By God, you're going to kill someone if you're not careful with that stuff. You know, if you, I want to go ahead and say this right now. If you need medications and medications work for you and they help you, take them. Please take them. Do not stop taking them. And if you do decide that you want to stop taking them, that you want to get off of them, do so under the guidance of a trained medical professional.
Yes,
Not
supervision.
someone who's sitting there on some channel saying, hey, I think you should stop taking these pills. They're bad for you. That person doesn't know you. They don't know exactly what you're going through. They don't know what medications you're on and the potential problems of going off of those medications. There are some people that need to be on medications because they have legitimate chemical imbalances that they need those medications to balance out. And without those medications, they have severe problems and issues if they go off of those medications. And it's just a matter of finding the right combination of what works for them. And that's something that you have got to discuss with your medical professionals, your trained professionals who are, I highly suggest you find a good psychiatrist. A psychiatrist is a doctor that is trained to work with mental health and psychotropic medicines.
Yes, and if you don't like your psychiatrist, get a new psychiatrist.
Oh yeah, feel free to fire them and go find someone else.
And and actually, when you are given medications, especially if you're given more than one medication, don't just blindly listen to the doctor. Like, look up the medications for yourself.
Oh yeah.
Like, read if there's interactions. Like, read
And one resource that people do not take enough is your pharmacist. When you go pick up that medication, the pharmacist will do a consultation with you. They will talk to you about that medication. And if you got any questions, that pharmacist is usually more knowledgeable about that medication than most doctors that are prescribing it.
I mean, yeah. I mean, it's literally their specialty.
Yeah.
I'm sure, I have never asked a pharmacist anything about my meds, but I have this feeling that if I did, they would fucking light up and look like a nerd explaining stuff about D&D. Just be like...
and when you take this pill, it's like rolling a natural 20. Nerd joke.
I got it.
I know you did. I don't know how many other people may, but, some will, some won't. But that's fine. But, educate yourself. And if you're, if you're working with a therapist or a counselor and it just doesn't seem the right fit, start shopping around for a different one and feel free to fire that one and go to someone else.
You know what some people do? Sorry for interrupting.
Go ahead.
Is if okay, so whatever group you belong to, you know what I mean? Like, say I don't know, say you're a witch and you're like in a witches group.
Mm-hmm.
And like be like, hey, I live in the whatever area. Does anyone know any like counselors, psychiatrists, whatever that are witch friendly? And you might not think it, but like people will respond and be like, oh yeah, I see so and so who's like here and they're like witch friendly or whatever.
Oh yeah.
I don't know why I pick witches.
I mean, it's you see a lot of times where, certain therapists or certain, even other medical professionals will denote that they're, LGBTQIA plus friendly.
Yes.
I think I got all the letters in there right.
Well, actually, there's a debate on whether they're adding a 2 or a P at the end.
Over.
Like QIA and then either two or P at the end after A.
Okay, for pansexual.
Yes.
Yeah. I've just seen the plus.
Yeah, it's fine. It's fine to do the plus. I'm just letting you. I'm just keeping you up to date with the current.
I stay fairly up to date on some of that. I don't necessarily go pushing my preferences, but I am part of that community. It's one of those things. Hey, I've talked about it with you,
Okay.
But yeah, it's one of those things that I don't necessarily feel that I have to project that out there on everyone. It's kind of between me and my partners. But it is important though, if you are, that you deal with counselors and therapists that are friendly to your beliefs. Like I was talking about where I was dealing with that one counselor who she was trying to push her spiritual beliefs onto me when I had different beliefs. And she was trying to tell me that I was wrong because I didn't believe the way she believed. And that wasn't her place as a counselor or a therapist to be trying to convert me to her spirituality or her spiritual belief. She needed to just work with me where I was at in mine. And I was going to say, go ahead.
Can I say my problem with counselors and psychiatrists and therapists and all of them?
Absolutely.
Is I have a problem with being in front of an authoritative person, like in a office, sitting across from each other, making eye contact, like that setting, like that whole setting. I fucking hate it. Like I just I'm actually much more comfortable now that I've been doing over the phone stuff with my psychiatrist.
And if that's what works, I mean, I know a lot of because of the pandemic and stuff, a lot of psychiatrists have went to doing video conferences and stuff.
Oh, I don't even do video. We just do it straight up over the phone.
Oh, that works.
And I normally don't like phone calls, but it's much more comfortable than sitting across from her in that fucking office. Just,
Yeah, I mean, I struggle with some of that myself, but mine was, because I was going through a county agency to get my assistance. I was stuck in that whole gambit of, okay, come in, fill out this paperwork. We always have paperwork we had to fill out because it was always about documenting everything we done and everything else. And then by the time we got all the paperwork filled out, I'd have a 45-minute meeting with them. They had an hour slot for me. 15 minutes of it was for them to, do their stuff, and then they would see their next client. So I had 45 minutes with this person to go in and discuss what I needed to for the week. And a good 30 minutes of it would be doing paperwork. And then another 5 minutes would be general just BS chat and chatter. And so I would get really 10 minutes of any kind of therapy and couldn't get into anything in that time frame. And to me, it just became such a rut that I just said I can't do this anymore. It's just it to me it was literally the definition of insanity. I was doing this thing over and over and over again every single week, and it wasn't producing any kind of results for me. And that was just where I was at. I When I was out in California, I saw a therapist out there. Really enjoyed working with her, um, and it was great. And I got a lot of work done out there. I got a lot of good healing in those sessions. I really took a hard look at some of the things that I needed to. And, she was also the person that suggested I got Tanner, which, absolutely amazing. Best suggestion ever. But when it comes to your mental health, also don't be afraid to go and talk to your pastor, your preacher, whoever it is, whatever spiritual leaders that are around you in whatever area that you're in. Don't be afraid to go and talk to them about it. That's one of the reasons why I wanted to do this show, was because I've had more and more people coming to me lately wanting to discuss mental health issues. That they're struggling with things. They're struggling with anxiety. They're struggling with depression. I've had people call me up who are feeling suicidal and just said, I need someone to talk to. And, that's part of the work when you're stepping into the spiritual realm, is dealing with some of these things and helping people through these. When you step into the realm of being a healer, it's not just, love and light and energy and, all the stuff that you hear about. You got to get into dealing with some of the mental health issues. You got to understand some of this, at least on a basic level, when people are coming to you, so that you can help them and point them in the right directions that they need to get the assistance that they need. And sometimes all they may need is just someone to sit and listen to them.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was talking about earlier. Sometimes you need to rant.
Yeah.
Sometimes you just need to
get
some shit out.
It's like when Darren McGavin was on. Darren talked about, sometimes as a healer and working as a shamanic practitioner and stuff, it's not about doing all these kind of fancy, crazy things to help this person out. Sometimes it's just about being there with them along the journey.
You know what else helps sometimes for some people? A little art therapy.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes, like, literally, I have this, so I got a new laptop this past year, and it came with like a pen, and it's got a touchpad, and it flips over, so it's almost like a tablet.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been using it to draw, and one day I just needed to get some shit out, so I picked a color, picked a pen, and I just drew circles, just over and over. Just kept drawing circles, big circles, little circles, just over and over and over until it just filled the entire page, and I was just like, all right, I got that out. Okay, let's.
There's a lot to be said about art therapy and stuff. Just I did during a lot of my really in-depth work. I've done a lot of different artwork. Some of it's been lost through the years. Like I said, I moved quite a bit when I lived out in California for 7 years, and some of the stuff when I moved back to Ohio from California, I had to get left just because I couldn't afford to ship it back. But there's a lot of artwork that I've done throughout the years that was just part of dealing with my mental health. If I can find some of those photos, I'll post them up on my Discord. I have photos of some of it buried in different places, so I'll see if I can find some.
Yay, art.
Yeah. I done there was a really interesting piece I was doing that was in clay. Uh, I was doing it with like Sculpey, but it was all being placed into a shadow box. I don't know what happened to it. I never did finish it out the way I wanted to. I'm disappointed that I've lost that piece throughout the years because I would like to finish it. Um, Shoot, who knows? Maybe someday I'll pick up some stuff and start on it again, recreate it. The image is in my head. I know exactly what it looked like. But yeah, I mean, and it doesn't have to be like super fancy creative art therapy either. Get yourself an adult coloring book and some colored pencils and
Or,
enjoy.
dude, just get some Play-Doh, some clay. Just fucking go nuts.
Absolutely.
Or even get a Lego set, man.
Hey,
Just throw some
whatever,
pieces together.
yeah, whatever works for you. I mean, whatever helps your mindset, as long as it's not causing you harm and it's not destructive to yourself or others. I'm behind it. You know, if it's, shoot. Sometimes what you need to do is just yell and scream, holler, just get that crap out. Yeah, it might freak some people out to hear you scream, but sometimes that might be just what you need to do. And if you need to, drive out in the middle of the country where there's no one around, pull your car off to the side of the road and just scream. Let that out. There's something about just
Smart.
letting that primal just scream out and just leaving it out there, getting back in your car and driving on.
Or sing along to a metal song.
Yeah, metal may not be the best choice for some people though, but whatever it is.
I don't know. Sometimes it helps get the rage out.
Sometimes it does. But just, I mean, whatever it is.
Yeah, we're not professionals. We're just giving out some tips.
Yeah, I mean, just as long as, like I said, it's not causing you or anyone else any kind of harm. And I will put this out there: if you need someone to talk to, by all means, hit up the Discord, reach out to me. If I'm available, I will be there. I try to talk to people as much as possible if need be. Sometimes I'm not available, or sometimes I'm dealing with my own health issues, and I will try to let you know that I'm dealing with some things, and maybe I just need to give you some resources to go into one direction or another, or see if there isn't someone else I can maybe send your way to talk to for the time being. But if you really want to chat with me, I'll definitely try to make time. That's something I definitely always try to do for people is try to be there, to talk to them about whatever it is they need. And if you come to me with anything, it stays confidential. I don't go passing that stuff around. There's a sacredness to me in that. If you want to come and talk to me about anything, it's between you and me and no one else.
It's very honorable of you, Hempy.
It's just the way it's got to be. It's like going to confession.
Me, on the other hand, I don't mind making new friends, but I'm not always in. I will admit, I'm not always in the best headspace for helping people.
Yeah, and sometimes it might just be, needing to listen to someone vent. Like I said, I, I try to do what I can to help people, but like I said, I'm not a medical professional. I'm not a trained psychologist. There's certain counseling that I can give here and there, on spiritual matters and things, and counseling from a spiritual aspect. But sometimes, like I said, you just need someone to talk to. And I do constantly look up different resources. So if you need different resources for an avenue to be able to help you out, I will be more than helpy. Uh, more than helpy.
Healthy.
Helpy. That's the new word of the day. Helpy. I'll be more than happy to help you out. I think I created a new word. I like it. Helpy. But yeah. So, but once again, like I said, if you're struggling with some mental health issues, reach out to someone. Even if it's a matter of going online and reaching out to Nami, or if you're feeling suicidal, there's a suicide hotline that you can reach out to. If it's something that you're feeling really really bad, you feel like you're going to hurt yourself or you're going to self-harm, get to a hospital, get to some medical professionals, and let them start getting you the assistance that you need. And then if you're watching the show, I imagine that you have some connection to some spiritual path, considering that this is what the show usually is talking about. This is kind of a different show for us, but I feel it's a subject that we needed to discuss tonight. Um, but reach out to whoever your spiritual leaders are around you. Your clergy, your pastors, your preachers, um, whoever it is that's around you. And if you don't have anyone else to reach out to, you can reach out to me. I'll talk with you. Um, I'll do my best to help you out with whatever resources that you need, and point you in a direction where you can get the help that you need. Or if you just need to rant or vent, I'll do my best to be there for you.
Yay.
Yay. So we're pretty much coming up on the end of the show. Is there anything else you want to say before we wrap it up, Puck?
I hope that something we've said is helpful for you, whoever is listening.
All right. Well, coming up on Thursday's show at 7 p.m., we're going to have Melvin Nix back on. And me and Melvin will be continuing our series on energy. And I believe we pretty much covered most of the chakras the last time. We might go back over some of the stuff with the chakras, but I think we're going to go into some more stuff along the lines of energy healing with like Reiki and stuff along those lines. And just talk about some of the basics of stuff like that. And then on Tuesday the 22nd, Demian Gover will be back with us, and me and Demian are going to be continuing our series on the universal spiritual laws. I have no idea which one we're on. I would have to look it up. I don't have it here in front of me. I'm sorry. And then on Thursday the 24th, we're going to have Michael Lee Hill with us. We're going to be talking about the Anunnaki. So if you're into any of the stuff along with star seeds or the Anunnaki or Nephilim, that might be a show that you would like to tune into, Buck. It might be one that will pique your interest. And then on the 29th, Ariana Shoup will be with us, and we're going to be discussing animal guides and totems. So that's what we have coming up for the rest of this month, and I will have more shows booking in hopefully really soon, because I got to fill out July. It's getting close to that time. So I want to say thank you so much for joining us tonight, Puck. Your avatar is...
my avatar freaked out.
Yeah, your avatar is bouncing all over the screen.
I'm coming back. Give me a second.
This is the fun part about avatars.
Oh no. Apparently my avatar. So I turned to my calendar to look at my calendar, And this is apparently what happened. Is my avatar freaked the fuck out? All right, can I say stuff about my stream and stuff?
Absolutely.
Okay, so I stream Thursdays, mostly Thursdays at 9 p.m. Eastern. I do community-oriented streams, meaning we are playing games in my Discord community. The last few ones we played Minecraft, which we have a Minecraft server that we play on, and before that we had some Fall Guys ones, and the next ones are going to be Dead by Daylight, because Dead by Daylight is coming out with a new Resident Evil DLC. Actually, it might have already come out.
Yeah, I just saw
Anyway,
that.
and then after that, we're going to be doing Overwatch, because Overwatch is going to be doing crossplay, cross-platform, whatever you want to call it. So if you are at all interested in any of that, like I said, please message me. You can find me in Hempy's Discord. Yeah.
And you can also find a link to her Twitch in the chat right now. And I will put that down into the description as well.
I also sometimes stream Monday nights around midnight Eastern time, but it's not all the time. I call it maybe Mondays.
Because
So
maybe you'll stream on Monday?
Maybe I won't. So, you know, keep an eye out on Mondays.
Alrighty.
That's about it.
Alrighty. Well, thank you for joining us tonight, Puck. Thank you for being on here and talking about your own personal mental health issues and stuff as well. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah.
Alrighty. So, everybody, thank you for joining us tonight, and we will see you Thursday night when we have Melvin Nix here, and we will be continuing our discussion on energy. Have a good night and be blessed.